It is important to be really focused, and when using heavy, sharp hand tools, obviously you're swinging hard at the wood in order to remove as much timber as possible, and there's potential for that to go wrong. Either you could badly misshape the piece, or you could hit your foot, you know, so it's definitely got to be careful with it. There's not really a lot of scope to think about much else, but I'm definitely enjoying the process, and it feels like there's a really strong connection with the past when you're using old tools like the adze or an axe even, because they are essentially probably the oldest type of woodworking tools known to mankind. And boat building has throughout the world has incorporated the adze as a really important tool for shaping timbers, because it's very versatile. The first boats that were ever built were most likely dugout canoes, and it would have been a primitive form of adze using a sharp flint tool lashed with animal hide to a wooden shaft that would have been used to hollow the tree out in order to make a boat. And the keel that I've been shaping here is really an evolution of that concept. So the early boats that developed from the dugout canoe were like a dugout canoe, but with planks on the side. So the keel of the boat has evolved from being something that was the boat in its own right to being a component of the boat. So now it forms the spine, the backbone that the frames join into the floors onto the boat, onto the keel rather. And then the planking forms the hull. But the keel is still there, and that is what is the essential link with the very first boats that were built. And the adze is also the same fundamental link with the past. It is this deeply satisfying tool to use, because it removes a lot of wood quickly. You see the shape coming, and it's versatile. It's actually quite accurate. Then, of course, when you've finished using the adze, you've taken the majority of the timber off. You can work then with progressively finer tools to get the real smooth, sweet shape that's needed in the rabbet here. So I've been shaping the overall shape of the keel, but also the rabbet, which is where the planking, the garboard plank, as it comes into the keel, sits in this rebate and gets fastened into it, and that's where the planking starts and springs from.
So initially, reaction to Ben taking on this project, there was a lot of, oh, that's going to be pretty cool. The more we heard about it, the more it was like, oh, it's quite it's more substantial project than it originally thought, because like obviously we've all known that he builds wooden boats, so another wooden boat is just what you'd expect from him. But then to have such a pretty wooden boat that's sort of historic in some ways, that makes it a lot more interesting. And yeah, from what I've seen currently in production, it's quite different to any other boat I've ever seen, that's for sure. So yeah, very glad that Ben's taken it on. Ben is mad in the best way possible. He's definitely undertaken something that most people would not, but I'm very glad he is, and I'm very looking forward to seeing what ends up at the end of it. 100% he's got the grit and determination, no question about that. It's just, has he got the time? Has he got the money? Wooden boats are very expensive. At the moment, wood is insanely expensive, so taking a risk with a lot of wood is, not many people are going to be doing that at the moment, that's for sure. Because yeah, the risk involved of it not panning out, or even if it all works well, everything goes together, if you've got someone at the end who's able to buy it, that's all good. But because of the cost of making it, just through material cost alone, the price is going to have to be high, so that reduces the availability of people who are going to be able to buy something like that. So it's definitely it's got an element of love in there for sure. I'm pretty confident he would have calculated the risks and be happy with them, but definitely passion is playing a big role in this project.
The information to cut this rabbet has come off the loft floor, so it's also information taken from the frames that we are actually going to use in the boat. So the expectation is that the majority of the length of this will be accurate, but there's a transition from the keel into the stem and stern post. It's a much harder place in the boat to loft, so I've left meat on in those areas so that once the stem and stern post are in place, I can see in the real world how the planking will run into that, and I can shape more accurately by offering a jig up that represents the planking, and I can then see it actually fit and work closely to make that junction correct. I've just learnt from experience. I've learnt from experience that there are aspects of the rabbet that are easier to get correct from the loft floor, and there are parts that are harder to get right. And generally speaking, it's a good idea to leave leave a small amount of wood that will give you some final accuracy when the planks actually come into the boat. You can see how they're actually coming in, rather than, I mean, the loft floor is as accurate a representation as you can make in 2 dimensions, and it's giving you information at points in the boat, but those points are quite spread out, so you're interpreting the shape between those points. And when there's a rapid transition in direction, if you don't have a lot of information there, then the chances are that you're less likely to get it right off the loft floor. So on the keel at the stern and at the bow and the stern, I've left meat on there so that I can, with the planking actually in place, I can do the final fit in the real world.